So doing this concierge for about 3 years, I have really enjoyed it. I think that it is definitely the missing link to how I wanted to practice because, example, I had a patient that I saw last week, and she was really concerned about her blood pressure. And we really didn't know why her blood pressure was going up because she generally has, pretty decent blood pressure. And she was concerned about it. I was too. So only difference was, reducing one of her, diuretics that she was on. And she thought that maybe that was it. So I said, well, go ahead and go back on the diuretic, and then I'm gonna call you on Tuesday. And so I love that because with Concierge, I feel like I continue to keep track and continuity with patients, even if they don't really have an actual appointment with me in the office. So that following Tuesday, I spoke to her again and I said, well, how are your blood pressures? And actually her blood pressures were higher. Now, mind you, she's not having like any chest pain or shortness of air or anything like that, but her blood pressure is just really, really high. So I'm thinking, that's just interesting. And I told her, I said, well, what I want you to do is I'm going to add a blood pressure medicine. I'm going to send something to your pharmacy. I'm going to go ahead and put stat on there so the pharmacist can go ahead and refill it for you. And I want you to call me at 7 o'clock tonight. Okay. So the patient proceeds to pick up the medicine, and around 7 o'clock at night, she calls me and lets me know where her blood pressure is. And her blood pressure is still high. And I'm like,
Right.
Blood pressure is high. And at this point, she just doesn't feel well, again, no chest pain or shortness of air. She just doesn't feel well. Her blood pressure is high. So with the blood pressure that I sent in, I told her go ahead and double up on that and to call me back in at 11:30 at night. I told her, I said, I'm not going to go to bed until you call me back.
And where else do you get that at,
Right, because I wouldn't even feel comfortable going to bed knowing my patient was concerned, but also I didn't want her blood pressure that high. So she calls me at 11:30 at night, and finally her blood pressure starts trending down. And I'm like, great, it wasn't perfect, but it was trending down, and she was feeling a little bit better. So I felt like we were in a position where we were both comfortable enough to go to bed.
Go to bed.
And so I told her, I said, call me the next morning so that way we will know what your blood pressure readings were. So the next morning she called and her blood pressure was just much, much better.
Wow. She
was so excited. She says, I feel tremendously better. My blood pressure's better. And I just want to tell you thank you.
Oh.
And that right there going into work was such a momentum for me. Not so much that I get to see more patients that I can help, but the fact that I was able to follow this patient through. Someone who was concerned about her blood pressure, instead of just saying, well, go to the ER.
Right, where she's going to get somebody she doesn't even know.
Exactly, or may have to wait for hours to be seen. She was able to contact her primary doctor, but we were able to walk through this issue from that earlier afternoon to the evening at 7 o'clock to late night at 11:30 until the next morning. And so she's doing better, and I'm going to see her back in the office next week and check on her, see how her blood pressure is. That's just one example of many, I would say, as a testament to this clinic, because you have much more time with the doctor, but also there's just so much continuity that it's really hard not to get better.
Exactly.
Because if you're not, we keep working on it until we find a solution. We don't stop until we find a solution. And I can definitely say that has been the biggest, tremendous motivation here, is that when I see people getting better and feel better and are motivated, to change their life, I'm just a big cheerleader for them and, just help guide them, but we're doing it together. That is what I consider concierge medicine top tier.
Exactly.